There's a man called Martin Spencer, and he was appointed as a non-executive board member of Ofsted, Companies House, the NHS Counter-Fraud Authority. Good to know they've got one, to be fair. The Criminal Cases Review Commission, the people who make horrible mistakes about cases of people put behind bars, and among many, many others. He sat on more Quango boards in 22 to 23 than any other individual in the public sector. He held 9 such positions. This is according to research from the Taxpayers Alliance. Total pay for those roles, 9 different roles, was £145,000 a year. And all he had to do as part of that was to attend 65 meetings in total a year for all of those different bodies. And yet he still managed to miss 18 of them. That's a quarter of them. The man still managed not to do a quarter of his job, and yet he's paid 145k a year. I mean, what is that, 5-6 times the average income? How on earth is this happening, and why is it happening on our dime? Let's talk to Darwin Friend, who's the head of research at the Taxpayers Alliance and joins us now. Hello, Darwin.
Good afternoon, Julia. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, and indeed for you guys at the Taxpayers Alliance publicising this. I mean, there are so many of these people that just on board and directorship. Now, there's plenty of directorships in the private sector, and everyone just, you hit your diversity target, and this person, that person, and people who just, the great and the good, and they sit on these boards. The public sector also do it, but it's a lot of the same people again and again. But this man is perhaps a rather extreme example, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he does stand out being on 9 boards. I mean, but he is only one of 285 others who are also sitting on numerous government Quango boards. And so what we're really seeing from this is there's a complete lack of diversity, as you mentioned. And that's not only diversity in thought, but it's also lack of diversity in region, where these people are coming from, their political views. I mean, I'm sure Martin Spencer clearly must have a lot of experience, has a lot of good views that maybe he can contribute. But I don't think that being on Ofsted, the Companies House, and the Submarine Delivery Agency, I'm failing to see the link between all 3 of those, really.
I mean, wow, this man is a multitasker. We can certainly say that. But the thing is that these stats, I mean, I know we think there's a lot of Quangos. I mean, there's a lot of Quangos in this country. But I mean, I think if you ask most people, how many Quangos are there? There'll be a health authority, there'll be, Ofcom, there'll be this and that. People might think there are a few dozen, right? I mean, just maybe a few dozen. There are more than 300 Quangos in this country. Now, these are basically quasi-government organisations. They're funded by the state. They're a lot of these people are appointed as in some way by the state. Everything's paid for by you and me. And they have a say over huge number of things that happen to us in our lives. But you and I, we get no say over how much people are paid or what these people do or the decisions they make. We need to scrap them, don't we?
No, I completely agree, and I really wish it was just a couple of dozen. As you say, it's getting on towards 400 now.
400?
And this Labour government, and this Labour government has now committed to introduce another 17 as well on top of that. And what we're seeing is really ministers, what they're doing, instead of actually making decisions themselves as the elected officials that we all vote for, it's ultimately being passed down onto these unelected Quangocrats who, frankly, even from our own MPs, have very little scrutiny before they're appointed or even while they're in office as well. And so this is really part of what we're trying to do at the Taxpayers Alliance in our new campaign that we've launched today called Britain's Quangos Uncovered, is really lift the lid on Britain's Quango state to show who these people are and what these bodies are actually doing. Because as you say, I think a lot of your viewers don't quite realise the scope and the functions that these people are actually
I didn't realise it was that big. I mean, heading on for 4,000. It's absolutely extraordinary. I mean, most recently we heard about the Sentencing Council and their guidelines about basically treating defendants differently based on, if they were trans or from a minority, ethnic or religious view. And of course, even the government and the opposition said, oh no, this is awful, you shouldn't do that. And they went, phew, you haven't got any say of us, we can do what we want, they basically said. Completely out of touch with most ordinary people, out of touch even with the people who've appointed them. But how do we control them other than, them being controlled by elected, accountable people that we get to vote in and out of office?
Well, this is what I really think the government needs to do. And the reason why we launched this campaign is we fully support the government in its rhetoric about having a bonfire of the Quangos. Obviously, we heard that in the 2010s as well with David Cameron and George Osborne. But I think what we actually need to look at is where Cameron and Osborne's project failed, which is not in terms of reducing the numbers. Of course, reducing the numbers is a key component of that. But it's also looking at the functions of these bodies. Does the public sector need to be doing them in the first place? And then secondly to that is, should this be directly under the control of the minister. I mean, fundamentally, the case that you brought, the Sentencing Council, that's a great example. They were trying to override what the government wanted to do. The government almost had to actually legislate to stop them doing what they were doing, which was two-tier sentencing rules. And so ultimately they reversed themselves. Well, I think a lot of your viewers are going to ask, why aren't the government in charge of that in the first place?
Exactly. I mean, that's the key thing. Again, if we're paying for it, I want accountable people. If they might be useless, but we can throw them out when they're useless. Darwin Friend, Head of Research at the Taxpayers Alliance, thank you so much for joining us. Do come on again soon.